I need to get some stuff for my shelf. It looks really barren. The Second Clover Deckbuilding Challenge has begun, with each participant being assigned their own unique Lucky Clover to build around. Now, I didn't participate in the first Deckbuilding Challenge, in fact, I wasn't even playing the format at the time. But since discovering it, I have thrown myself fully into it as a format that is absolutely a delight to brew and play. Clover is often described as a commander variant, with an uncommons only card pool, a 60 card deck, a legendary creature in the command zone, and no other legendary creatures in the 59. Additionally, you have one Lucky Clover, which breaks the singleton rule, which you can have 4 copies of. And I assume you have to have 4 copies of, actually. It's the Lucky Clover. For this deck building challenge, I've been assigned Crimson Caravaneer. Crimson Caravaneer is a relatively cheap double striker, which is pretty unique in its own right. It also makes a junk token whenever it connects. I think the most obvious direction to build around when it comes to Crimson Caravaneer is the junk token. General artifact synergies are strong, and they're a pretty unique token that can be tapped and sacked to exile the top card of your library, and then you can play it until the end of the turn. This means artifact synergies matter or cast from exile matters, but the thing I'm most interested in is just having a good double striker that can get in damage. Now, I'm not a very aggro player, so getting in damage to kill someone is not really my game plan. Getting in damage to trigger effects, that's what I think's fun. So my first draft is going in a red-blue direction, so I can load up with effects that care about when I get combat damage. It's surprising how often red doesn't really care about that, but blue really likes getting in combat damage to trigger alternate effects. I think it's a holdover from when they had these saboteur effects that would blank the damage they did to do something else. It's saying blue's not here to punch you in the face, but we're still going to use combat to represent taking some form of action. Going into the red zone and connecting is not attacking someone, it's doing some kind of experiment and successfully discovering something new or something like that. So that's the direction I'm starting in. I'm going to do a little bit of tinkering, see what I come up with, and I'll check back in with you to see where it goes from here. Alright, we got our first draft. I mean, not really, it's sitting at 70 cards, but that's good enough to start playing it and seeing if it feels any good. I went in this direction of a lot of the things that reward me for connecting with my double striker actually draw cards. So I've got a decent amount of card draw matter in the deck. There's not like a ton of that to make it super useful, but it's kind of interesting. And then there's just a bunch of other stuff that cares about artifacts because I am going to have them. I'm not going to just pretend I don't have those. I will have them, and I don't really know how much I'm going to be using the junk tokens, so they might just be lying around. We'll see how that goes. Again, we'll play it out, see how it feels in practice. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I'm going to be sacking all my artifacts all the time anyway, so it's irrelevant. I'll let you know after the playtest. All right, initial tests look pretty good, actually. They are running very smoothly. I like what's happening. I feel like the interactions are successful. That's good. I also have no interaction in the deck yet. That's not entirely true. There's like a few pieces of interaction, but they're really few and far between. And like, if I just ran into a propaganda or something, I might just die. So I'm gonna try and see if I can find some like enchantment removal, some silver bullets. I gotta figure out what I'm cutting for them, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. I haven't even told you what the commander is yet. The commander is Gut with the background of Feywild Visitor. And what I really want is the Feywild Visitor, because that should trigger on first strike and second strike, or you know what I mean. Even though if I hit you with 3 creatures in regular strike damage, it triggers once. If I hit you once in double strike and once in normal, that triggers twice. So it feels very fitting for what we're trying to do here. So that's awesome. Gut lets us turn the junk tokens we're generating into more damage, which I don't really care about. Like, I'm just not that excited about that. But, you know, hey, going wide. We're going wide, which makes our reconnaissance missions hit that much harder. Even though we were building around the double strike specifically, going wide is still beneficial for us. So I think it's gonna be sweet. I'm a little worried I'm just gonna kind of like kill people or like be scary and then get killed more likely. I'd rather be innocuous and drawing cards. That's my MO. That's what I would rather be doing. However, I think this is what we're going with here. But need some silver bullets. I have some very cheeky cards I'm very excited about, but still need the silver bullets, so check back in with you soon. I was just thinking about the whole double strike angle. I'm not sure if they're actually like the most efficient way of doing that, now that I think about it. If the deck I'm building is not the deck which my clover is the best clover to serve that deck for, then is it a good deck for that clover? Did that make sense? That was a bit of a ramble. Point being is, I'm using Crimson Caravaneer as a double striker. The point is that the deck is built around things that trigger when I hit face. But are there better double strikers? To be a Clover, it needs to be 3 mana value or higher anyway, so even if there's like a cheaper double striker, that doesn't necessarily matter. I think I'm still happy with my choice of going red-blue, and then Crimson Caravaneer actually successfully being one of the best picks. I think there's definitely a different option of going into like a blue-white deck that uses a different type of double striker. There's some like really interesting double strikers that come packaged with flying in white, which could be really cool. You could also run Margot on the case as your commander, which is a 3 mana white and blue double striker that can't be blocked inherently, which is really sweet. So I think that could be kind of interesting if you just care about blue things that trigger on dealing damage. What's nice about the Crimson Caravaneer build is that I do have this inherent benefit of artifacts. And so while artifacts are sort of a sub-theme, not a main theme, they're still there, and that still lets me fill out the rest of the deck in a way that feels very satisfying. So it took me a little bit of time to sort of figure out whether or not I'm happy with this, because, you know, if it's not the best, could I be doing something better? I don't want to just be a Clover because that was the one I was assigned. That doesn't feel like it's living up to the challenge. Okay, I think we're good. I did notice in playtest I didn't really draw any of my removal, which maybe means I might need more. I don't know. But the deck feels great. Now, if somebody just removes the Crimson Caravaneer, there's not a lot of creatures in this deck, so I do worry that I might just end up kind of not doing anything. I mean, on all this fails, I can play my commander, I can give them unblockable with all my auras and equipment, and then I can just start chipping in that way. It's not the worst, so I'm not too reliant on making sure I have a perfect draw, which is very nice. Yeah, no, it's looking great. I am excited. So, in our sorceries, we've got Aether Gale, Boomerang Basics. This is sort of a removal suite that I think is actually pretty cool in how it's versatile. Aether Gale is one of my favorite blue board wipes. It is 5 mana, returns 6 non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Usually, I think bounce is a little bit slow. It's just tempo, it's not really removal, but if you're removing 5 things from someone's board or 4 things from someone's board, I know you do have to actually declare all 6 targets, but they're gonna actually be gone for a reasonable amount of time because your opponent can't reliably replay all of them. So something's gonna be gone in a semi-long-term manner. So I think that's pretty good. Boomerang Basics lets us do the same thing, but like targeted only one thing. It has the upside that we can use it to hit our own stuff to draw a card. I'm not sure how often this is gonna come up, but we do have a decent number of auras that if they end up on someone that we don't really care for them to be on, we can just bounce it to our hand and replay it on someone else. If early in the game I'm giving whatever creature I happen to like I give Gut a fly. Fly's an enchantment that gives it flying, but also lets it venture into the dungeon when it connects. I'm going to want to move that onto my Crimson Caravaneer when I have the chance, but I can't move my enchantments around. There are some spells that let you move enchantments. I didn't put any of those in this deck. I don't think they're that impactful. This card's really cool because it can actually do one or the other. I'm a little bit rambling here. Let's move on. Last, we have Sundering Eruption, which is an MDFC. You can play it as a land, or we can play it to destroy a target land and then have its controller search for a basic, blah, blah, blah. As much as that's useful to have a silver bullet for any kind of land that we need to destroy, it's mostly, for the last mode, creatures without flying can't block this turn, giving us a very reliable way of just getting in damage if we need to one time. Our instants are also very slim. We've got Siren's Call. This is the one I'm like really excited about. This is some spice here. This is target opponent. I can only cast the spell during combat before attackers are declared. Target opponent must attack with all of their creatures that can attack. Then, any that somehow don't attack, they all die unless they had Summoning Sickness. Summoning Sickness is the one excuse. You must attack if able. If you don't, even if you couldn't, you die. With the one exception of Summoning Sickness. Which I think is really funny. I had a few other things that were like forcing my opponent to attack to open up space for me to attack back in myself, but they all got cut except for this one because this one I think is really cheeky and funny, so I wanted to include it. It's also 1 mana instant speed, like it's not very much investment. The other ones were like 3 mana enchantments and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know if that's worth it. Anyway, enchantments, we got 10 enchantments, let's go through them. Break Through the Line, 2 mana enchantment, spend red to give target creature with power 2 or less, haste, and can't be blocked. Our Crimson Caravaneers come down for 3 mana, and they are 1/2s. spending 1 extra mana to give it haste to attack the exact same turn and not be able to be blocked to boot is really nice. Even if they've been there and don't need the haste, 1 mana to make something unblockable is gonna, I think, really smooth out the deck. Of course, our payoffs for actually hitting. Coastal Piracy is here, as well as Reconnaissance Mission. They're both 4 mana blue enchantments that say whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. These have performed so well. I mean, I'm not breaking any new ground when I say Reconnaissance Mission and Coastal Piracy are good cards, but they're great here. I kind of was worried that they perform better in a token strategy than in a double strike strategy, but they've been performing great, especially considering we are actually making tokens with our commander. Gut making 4/1 menacing skeletons. I totally missed that they had menace. Holy crap, I knew Gut was good, but I didn't know they were that good. And of course, the Feywild Visitor background, making so whenever we hit, we get a bird. And by a bird, I mean a fairy dragon. The board ends up getting much wider than I keep expecting it to, which is awesome. For single target enchantments, we've got Curious Inquiry, Curious Obsession, and Fly, which we can enchant directly onto our Crimson Carabiner. We also have Gossip's Talent, which, while the first level of it is when a creature enters Surveil 1, isn't necessarily amazing. It's pretty okay, because again, we do have token generation, but not like a ton of token generation. I'm treating it like a 4-mana enchantment. When we level it up to level 2, it costs us 2 mana. We then have whenever you attack, target attacking creature with power 3 or less, can't be blocked. So we can use this to help our Crimson Carabiners get in damage if they don't have any form of evasion attached to them. We also have Improbable Alliance. Whenever you draw your second card, each turn, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token. I used to have a bunch of these cards that were like whenever you draw a card, period, not whenever you draw your second card. And they were fine, but they just kind of amounted to like a big dummy who hit you really hard, and that's just not my style. Like, I didn't really care that I was getting +1/+1 counters on my creatures. These cards have a much better floor, and I don't really need the ceiling of a bunch of +1/+1 counters. I mean, maybe that'd be great. Maybe you'd want that, but I don't care. Next, let's jump over to our artifacts. We've got the Assassin Gauntlet. This one's sweet. Okay, so 3 mana. When it enters, attach it to a creature immediately. Then tap all creatures target opponent controls. So this can help us get in damage if we don't have any other evasion. We can just tap down the entire board, and then the equipped creature has +1/+1, and whenever this deals combat damage, draw a card, discard a card. Sweet. Damage to a player. We also have in the same vein Mask of Memory, Rogue's Gloves, Skeleton Key, and Zephyr Boots, which all draw cards when we hit face. We have a few other weird ones in here too. We got Detective Satchel, which is 4 mana. When it enters, I get to investigate twice, 2 clue tokens, then I can tap it to create a Thopter. But I can activate it only if I've sacrificed an artifact, which is really, really easy when you have junk tokens. If you're only using clues, where Detective Satchel was of course designed around, costs you 2 mana to sacrifice that clue? Who's got that mana? Who has time? But junk tokens, whew. I heard that they don't plan on ever using them again because they were too strong, and they might be right. They are great. They have felt so good. I gotta use junk tokens more often. Creatures. Of course, we have our Crimson Carabiner, 4 copies because we have to. That's the way that works. But we also have a few things that care about drawing cards. We've got Emrakul's Messenger. We have Mischievous Mystic. We've got Knowledge Seeker. When it dies, I get a clue. Yeah. Otherwise, we've got Whirler Rogue. This one's really sweet. We have a lot of extra artifacts we don't need, so being able to tap them to make somebody unblockable is excellent. We've got Loyal Drake and Loyal Apprentice. These is some tech that I just really enjoy. I like putting them in a lot of my decks. I don't always think they're super important, but I think they're especially good in decks with backgrounds. Loyal Apprentice and Loyal Drake are cards from the Lieutenant cycle that say while you control your commander, you get this benefit. The Loyal Apprentice benefit, you get to make a 1/1 Thopter with haste at the beginning of each combat on your turn. And the Loyal Drake benefit is draw a card at the beginning of combat. So both of them are really, really nice. We get our consistent card draw, and we get extra Thopters, extra body, extra artifacts that can get in. It's super sweet. Why I think they're especially good in decks where you have a background is that your background counts as a commander, which means if they remove Gut, but they don't remove my Feywild background thing, Wanderer, whatever it's called, I still control a commander. And it's like, are you going to spend your removal on my enchantment background that's not doing anything? It just sits there doing literally nothing except for activating my lieutenant. And I think that's really, really sweet. I don't know. I think that's fun. I'm rambling again, but I think it's cool. Other than that, we have one more sweet tech card, which is Crime Novelist. This card's so good. I'm always scared about playing them because they're so good that I want to make sure I can get some value out of them before they get killed, because I expect them to die, always. 3 mana for a 1/3. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Crime Novelist and add red. I keep thinking it'd be a good Clover, but honestly, I think it performs better here because I can't reliably have the artifacts to sacrifice to Crime Novelist when it's the Clover, but when it's a one-of and the Crimson Carabineer is the Clover, I am just rolling in junk tokens. And the junk tokens are so good with the Crime Novelist because I hate impulse drawing usually. I feel like I'm not going to play the card. I'm always worried it's going to get exiled forever. But here, I exile a top card in my library. If I don't have enough mana to play it, well, now you do, because you made one red. It's so reliable. I'm not afraid to crack my junk tokens. It's so good. Oh, I forgot one more. Gleaming Gear Drake. This is another payoff for artifacts. It is a 1/1 flyer that when it enters, you investigate, and then whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you put a counter on it. A lot of cards are from Murders at Carlisle Manor here. Murders was a weird set because, like, it had all this artifact synergy, and it was trying to not be parasitic in that it was designed around clues, but it cared about artifacts, not just clues, which meant it just, like, really strong if you use things that could be sacrificed easily, like treasures and junks, and really weak in its own set because clues are so awkward to sacrifice. Very, very weird set, but very, very good cards. And that's the deck. That's the whole rundown. I'm probably going to cut most of this because I definitely rambled a lot, but you know, whatever. That's the deck. I should give it a name. It's currently just called Scouting the Wasteland Clover Challenge 2 because the idea is that I'm using Crimson Carabineer to really just like draw cards and stuff, right? All of my hitting you in the face represents scouting and looking around and finding stuff and reconnaissance missions. Alright, that's it for the deck. Wish me luck in the challenge. I don't know. I don't have any expectations to actually like win this. It's like just a for fun challenge anyway, but I enjoyed making it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye-bye!